Happy to take any questions that you have.
Thanks a lot, Mayor. Appreciate it. We're going to kick it off with Tamam Bradley. My colleague Asha will pass down the mic. 2 questions per reporters. And also I request that no one interrupt our speakers when they're speaking. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. This is on, doesn't matter. Madam Mayor, so where are we then with the FOP? We saw that there might have been a note that went out to officers saying that in fact they would not be put on the no paid list tomorrow if they don't report their vaccination status. Is that true? Is that just a deal that was struck with the FOP? What can you tell us?
No, that's not accurate. I'm not sure where that comes from. We've been very transparent, very straightforward with the unions that represent our employees for weeks now, including the FOP, including Local 2, the fire union, the unions that represent the supervisors, as well as all the other public service unions. We have, I think, taken great strides and made some changes to the original policy as initially formulated in response to some of the good faith suggestions and recommendations that were made by the unions. But tomorrow's a real date. And our expectation is that people will comply. And we're going to keep doing, as you heard from the various commissioners are here, we're going to keep doing everything that we can to educate people into compliance and to continue to myth bust. One of the reasons why we wanted Dr. Arwady to show you the actual portal, because there's all kinds of mythology that's been spun up by some to suggest that we are asking for detailed, confidential, privileged medical information, and as you can see for yourself, just not so. It's pretty straightforward. Are you vaccinated or not? If you are, you upload your information. If you're not, then you go to a separate page and you indicate that and that you'll be taking the testing option. It's pretty straightforward, not burdensome, not intrusive. So we're going to keep pushing towards our goal. We're seeing numbers increase in every department across the city. As I indicated, we'll be providing early next week, as soon as we are able, what the status is of employee compliance across departments. But our goal is to create a safe workplace. And the best way that we can do that, the biggest tool that we have, is by getting people fully vaccinated.
John Catanzara is suggesting that 50% of members might not show up for work this weekend. Would that be, in your mind, a strike?
Well, I think you heard from Chief McDermott, who has a pretty good pulse for these things. We don't expect that to be an issue this weekend. We can fully expect that members will show up, and unless they're told to go home, they need to report for duty. Now, if they don't show up, that's a whole different issue. But my expectation is that people who swore an oath to serve and protect the city are going to honor that oath. And they're going to show up, they're going to report for duty, and they're going to comply with a legal directive from the city and an order from the police department. Anything less would be insubordination. We don't want to see that. There's no reason to see it. As you can see, it's very straightforward. And I hope that members of the department are not led over the cliff without a parachute by anybody who tells them they can just ignore legal, proper direction.
Thank you, Mayor. Erin Hegarty, Daily Line.
Hello.
Hi there.
Do you think what happened today with the disagreement over what happened with the proposals that were initially sent to Rules Committee demonstrates the need for City Council to have its own parliamentarian? And is Alderman Beal's proposal something you could get on board with?
You're talking a lot of insider baseball, so let me kind of decipher it for folks that are probably wondering, what in the world is this woman talking about? Look, here's the bottom line. We need City Council to function, and to function in an orderly fashion. And what we see played out over and over again is when Alderman Beal doesn't get his way, he complains that there's a problem, that the rules are rigged. The rules were voted on by the City Council, and if memory serves me correctly, he voted on the very rules that govern City Council procedures. So I've always thought that this members of the city council should have their own lawyer, because the corporation council is the corporation for the council for the city, not the city council. I made that very clear coming in the door. Whether they do that or not, that's up to them. But fundamentally, the rules are the rules, and nobody gets to just break the rules when it doesn't suit them, as unfortunately I think Alderman Beal seems to think. And then to respond in the way that he did, which is basically retaliate against his colleagues. There's no place for that. There's no place for that. And luckily, Alderman Riley stood up and made a motion that made sure that the matters that were introduced by members of the city council in good faith could proceed forward. So, as the saying goes, you catch more flies with honey than with salt. It's a lesson that all of us need to learn, and I think one that would serve Alderman Bill well.
Okay, and this is from my colleague Alex Nitkin. On the search for a permanent head of COPA, it's been more than 5 months since Cindy Roberts resigned. And Joe Ferguson said during his budget hearing last week that nobody really knows how the search for a permanent replacement is being done. Can you give an update on that?
Yeah, and unfortunately that's just not true. We were very transparent about it. We used exactly the same process that was used previously in choosing the heads of COPA. A search committee drawn from the Citizens Advisory Committee that COPA itself has set up, along with others, put out a national search, sought applications, and now have made recommendations to me. And we will interview the finalists and then pick someone to lead the organization forward. Meanwhile, we have a very able acting chief administrator of COPA. So the notion that it's this mystery is not so.
All right, Craig Wall, ABC 7.
Couldn't tell from the mask. Mayor, so if...
But I could tell from the socks.
Thank you. If officers show up, if firefighters and paramedics show up, is someone actually checking to see whether they've uploaded their status? Because it seems to be they're saying they're going to show up expecting to be sent home as opposed to not showing up.
Well, obviously the Department of Human Resources has been operating a portal that was open now, I think, almost 2 weeks, where city employees could upload their information. That information is being sent out on a regular basis to city commissioners. So, yes, we have a sense on a daily basis, on an hourly basis, of who's signed up, who has not. And commissioners have been reaching out to those folks to remind them of what their obligation is. So, and I'll just repeat what I said before. No employee should abandon their post. If there's a reason for them not to be there, they will be told directly by a supervisor, but not showing up creates a whole other set of issues for them.
Alderman Beal suggesting if there is not enough officers on the street, if for some reason what you're asking for and hoping for doesn't happen, that maybe the governor should declare a state of emergency, suggesting the National Guard should be called out. Are you prepared to take any kind of action like that if there is a major shortfall of manpower?
Well, I don't like to deal in hypothetical scenarios that have not presented themselves. Obviously, we believe in planning and being ready, but our primary focus from now until not only with our own city workforce, but with residents writ large that are eligible for the vaccine, is to continue the important work of educating them about why the vaccine is safe, why it makes sense for them to take, why it makes sense for their families, their coworkers, and members of the public that they get vaccinated. We have an opportunity to save lives. And what I would say is it is an incredibly discouraging thing to think about the number of lives that have been lost. Now, many of those lives that are lost that Dr. already reported were lost before there was a life-saving vaccine. But now that there's a life-saving vaccine, we've got to do everything that we can to educate people about why taking the vaccine is so important. It's not a nicety, it's a reality. When you look at the exponential increase and risk to yourselves as an unvaccinated person, not just to get sick, but to die of the vaccine. And if you've got an underlying comorbidity, if you are a person of color, that risk goes up exponentially. And here's what we know. We know that 97% of the people who are in the hospital and dying of COVID are unvaccinated. That makes no sense. We have the vaccine at our fingertips. It is real, it is widely available, it is free, and it is life-saving. So I encourage everyone, if you're still on the fence, as we know some people are, Let us educate you about the safety of the vaccine. Let us talk to you about what your fears and concerns are. But come into the body of people who have understood that getting this vaccine is necessary to save your life, the life of your family members, and the life of everyone that you come into encounter with. Everybody wants to put the pandemic in the rearview mirror. We can't get there if we still have a substantial part of our population that's unvaccinated. We've got to do more, all of us, which is why we launched the Protect Chicago 77. Every one of our neighborhoods has room for growth, and we want to encourage that growth by getting people vaccinated.
Thank you, Mayor. Greg Pratt, Chicago Tribune.
Good afternoon, Mayor.
You're welcome.
The question I want to understand about the vaccine mandate and the rules on October 15th is, do the people who aren't complying with the rules go into no pay status immediately, or do they go into no pay status Monday or at some indeterminate time in the future?
Well, as you might imagine, it's going to take us a little bit of time to make sure that we've got information correct, and we want to make sure that we're reaching out to people who appear not to be in compliance to determine if that's in fact so. So it'll take a little bit of time to sort that out. We want to do belts and suspenders on this and give people the benefit of the doubt. But once we understand that people have not complied with the simple request to say yes or no, or that I'm going to take the testing option, then yes, we will be moving forward and putting people into no pay status.
Well, could that be a process of days? Would that be weeks?
Well, I don't want to, it's not going to be weeks, but it's not going to be Saturday or Sunday. It's going to take us a little bit of time to go through the information and then verify with the employees, as you would expect, that in fact they have not done what they were mandated to do.
Thank you, Greg. Dana Kozlov, CBS.
Hi, Mayor. Just going back to the police officer situation, are you concerned there will be a police officer shortage this weekend for either officers told to go home or officers who don't show up?
No, I'm not. Again, as the chief said, I don't expect that to be an issue. And as I just said in answering to Greg Pratt's question, it's going to take us a couple of days to make sure that we've got the information correct. We're going to be reaching out to those folks who appear not to have complied. And then once we know that they haven't complied, then we'll be taking the necessary action. But that'll take a couple of days, and I don't think that process will be complete over the weekend.
And also, it came up in...
And I want to emphasize again, if you are working over the weekend on a 24-hour shift in particular, you need to show up and you need to come to work. If you do not come to work, that's a whole different issue that you're going to subject yourself to. People need to show up. They need to do their jobs. If they are placed into a no-pay status, when that time, if that time ever comes, they're going to be told that by a supervisor. And unless and until that time happens, report for duty.
And on that same subject, is there a contingency plan should there be shortages, unexpected shortages?
Of course.
And what would the details of that plan be? Overtime?
Well, what I'll say is this. Of course, we always have contingency plans, and I'm not going to get into the details of that here. My hope is that we won't have to activate any contingency plans, but our number one priority, obviously, is to keep this city safe, and it's certainly my hope that sworn members of the department who swore an oath to serve and protect and abide by the laws of the Constitution of the United States, of the state of Illinois, and the ordinances of the city of Chicago, and who have been given a directive and an order that they will do so, and that they will not be insubordinate, that they will not follow the lead of FOP leadership that is not telling them the truth, that has misled them, and is tantamount to pushing them over a cliff without a parachute. I know our men and women of the police department are smarter than that, and I am confident that they will be in compliance. And if they're not, obviously there will be consequences.
Lillian, Newsmax?
No, excuse me, ma'am.
You can give him the microphone.
William Kelly, Newsmax.
That's just your signal to behave yourself.
Excuse me?
That's just your signal to behave yourself, sir.
The real Chicagoans that I talk to tell me that their real concern, the real epidemic that they're concerned about is your epidemic of violence in the city of Chicago, the shootings, the murders, the completely unsolved shootings and murders, by the way. On an average weekend in Chicago, we have 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80 shootings, okay? And that's fully staffed.
Is there a question here, sir?
If your rhetoric, your mandate results in even 20% of the Chicago Police Department not showing up or not being on the streets this weekend, will that blood be on your hands?
Well, sir, as always, you're hyperbolic and you're also wrong on your facts. In fact, our Chicago Police Department is solving more homicides this year than they have in the past 10 years. We have a clearance rate that is higher than it's been in the last 10 years. So you clearly like to peddle in hyperbole and rhetoric and all sorts of extremism, but the facts are the facts, and our police officers are working their tails off every single day. Our detectives are working their tails off every single day, and the challenges that we're facing in this time around gun violence are a result of many factors, and we've got to make sure that our county partners are doing their part. What I believe is that murderers, killers, rapists should not be on the street. And we've got a significant problem with the number of people that are out on electronic monitoring. So we need the courts to step up and do their part and make sure that criminal justice in this city is actually real. The absence of accountability that's your crime wave right there. And so I'm going to continue doing our part. These brave men and women who are on the front lines every day are going to continue to do their part. We need partnership with the county to make sure that they step up and do their part. Thank you.
The only hyperbole that really matters is your hyperbole.
So, sir, if you've got a question, please answer it. But I'm not going to banter with you. That's not what these press conferences are about. You've got facts. You have a question. Answer it. Otherwise, we're going to move on because others of your colleagues actually want to ask questions and get to information that's important for residents of the city to know. Are you done?
I believe you said to the FOP, bring it. That phrase is typically an invitation to a fight. Is that really the relationship that the mayor of the city of Chicago should be having with the FOP when we have a crime epidemic in the city of Chicago?
What I said is, why don't you give her the microphone and not be, yeah, thank you, sir. Thank you for complying with some rules. What I said is that if the FOP is threatening litigation, I don't fear that. I'm a 30-plus year litigator. I don't fear lawsuits because I am confident that we have the law and the facts on our side. So if they want to bring a lawsuit, go right ahead. Mary Ann?
NBC.
Mayor, the governor did say that he reached out to you. I'm not sure if he spoke to you directly or to your office, but did offer, if needed, resources from the state. Does that mean that offer is sort of on standby? Can you give us any kind of indication where that all stands with the mayor as far as perhaps the state police and national?
So, again, I don't want to get into all the details of our contingency plan, but the state police have been incredible partners with us, particularly over these last 2 years. So if there is a need for us to lean into those resources, then we will.
Finally, some of the aldermen today, there was a divide, the ones we spoke to, some who said, let's take a pause, let's take a break, maybe perhaps not have this deadline right now. Others, of course, said they agree with it. What do you say to those aldermen as well as perhaps residents who say, you know what, we don't need a vaccine mandate?
Well, I understand that the FOP has whipped up a lot of concern, but here's what I know. The only way that we can guarantee a safe workplace is by having the vaccine. So kicking the can down the road really isn't my vocabulary. I think you've seen, and I've demonstrated over the time of my time as mayor, that I'm willing to take on the tough challenges, particularly when it comes to saving lives. And this fundamentally, all the rhetoric, all the noise is about saving lives. The way that we can do that, the way that we can make our workplace safe, the way that we can make public spaces safe, and the way we can make private spaces safe is by getting people vaccinated. It makes no sense to me that in this time, when we have a life-saving vaccine at our fingertips that we know is safe, that we know is widely available, that is free, that people are not taking advantage of that. And it's devastating to me that we know right now there are people in emergency rooms, there are people in ICU beds clinging to life who are unvaccinated, and that more are going to die. It doesn't make sense. What we need to do is educate our residents about the efficacy, the safety of the vaccine, make sure that it is widely available, talk to them about their fears and concerns, but get them to the point where they are taking the vaccine for themselves, for their family, and for the rest of our city. This is a pandemic where we are truly all in this together. The weakest links make a difference in all of our lives. And the weakest link are people who are not unvaccinated or who are unvaccinated. And we've got to reach out to those folks. They're our neighbors, they're our friends, they're our family members. We got to keep talking, and we've got to persuade them that this is the only way path forward for them, for their families, and for our city.
Heather Schroen on your far left, Mayor.
Hiya, Heather.
Hi, Mayor. I don't see Superintendent David Brown or Fire Commissioner Annette Nance Holt behind you. Why aren't they here, and why aren't we hearing directly from the leaders of the department about how important it is for the members of their department to get vaccinated and to show up for work?
Well, let me push back a little bit. Both Superintendent Brown and Commissioner Holt have talked at length publicly, but also internally to the members of their respective departments about the vaccine. They are not here because they're attending to other city business, but the leaders come in all kinds of shapes and sizes, and you're seeing them here. First Deputy Chief Carter, Chief Dinahan, Chief McDermott, we're all unified, all saying the same thing: get the vaccine, sign up to the portal. That message is very clear, and it's been said loud and clearly by the superintendent and by Commissioner Holt.
Shifting topics, Inspector General Joe Ferguson's last day is Friday. There has not been an interim named for his replacement, and can you commit to releasing his report on the Anjanette Young raid aftermath?
So there has been an interim named. That information has been shared internally with the IG. I'm expecting them to release it publicly. It'll be somebody within their ranks who has been a longtime employee and will serve. And regarding Anjanette Young, I have not seen that report, and I know I'm going to have a lot of questions about the scope of it. So once we have all of that resolved, we'll talk about down the road about what he has said. But I'm also looking forward to getting a readout from former 7th Circuit Judge Ann Williams and her colleagues at Jones Day.
Mayor, last report of the day, Mariah Wolfel from WBZ in the back.
Hi, Mayor.
Hi there, how are you?
Good, how are you? Good. Just one question. Can you share preliminary numbers on where the city stands with vaccination of employees and with reporting vaccination status? I know you're going to share more details next week, but ballpark, where are we at percentage-wise?
Well, as I've said several times this week, and I think every time that you've asked a question, we'll share those details early next week as soon as they're available.
Thank you very much, folks.
Thanks,
Have a great
everyone.
day.